Good afternoon on what is a cool, grey and overcast day. It is Wednesday the 15th of March. Got a nice hot cup of tea. Oh, and a parcel to a box. So, let's get this one open. See if I can find the easy spot, because it's quite firmly taped up. I literally just unwrap it like this because it's all done in brown paper. So a few slices of the knife. Start. I'm almost there. So yeah, quite a lot of securely wrapped in a big swathe of brown paper. And get down to this. So all that can sit over there. Let's find out what I've got in here. Yeah, very securely wrapped. This, of course, is no bad thing, but it just means you've got to watch me doing almost nothing and talking inanely. So, here, and I've definitely got a bundle of interesting things, including White Dwarf number 13, number 14, 16, 17 and 18. And that's a nice cardboard in it. So let's start off with the earliest one I have. I've also got 21, so that's 16, 17, 16, 14. And I'll grab I would have grabbed these as a bundle, but let's do an unboxing of them anyway. So let's start off with number 13. Now this came out in July of '79, and would have cost you 60 pence. So we have promises of, you can't really see that, but it says Advanced D&D, Combat Tables, Hurry Character Class, Traveller, Expanding Universe. And this perhaps is an interesting issue for that Hurry class. Perhaps one of the most controversial classes that White Dwarf ever did. And we open up, and we've got the first things you're going to see. You've got adverts. And so you've got an advert for a shop, model workshop in Guildford in Surrey, and then for Fantasy Games Unlimited and the Chivalry and Sorcery source book, Swords and Sorcerers by Raven Gallery. So essentially for the Chivalry and Sorcery line, which would have been published by Fantasy Games FGU, Fantasy Games Unlimited at the time. Turn over the page, and we've got TSR Hobbies, Dungeons and Dragons figures. Of course, figures were very big back. I mean, figures have always been big in the hobby, certainly when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. But they were big back in the day because essentially you have to remember the hobby is only 5 years old in 1979, and it's still very close to its role-playing roots. So similarly across the page, we have this is so we've got advert for miniature figurines, then Greenwood Miniatures. So miniature figurines would have been in Southampton, and Greenwood and Boar with their own figures in Cleveland, and then we've got Citadel Miniatures based in Newark, Nottinghamshire at the time. And they've got a bit of bleed through. We've got an advert for SDVM Games, as was the models, more miniatures, and then we've got the editorial from Ian Livingstone, list of contents page, list of features and departments, and then we start off with Advanced D&D Combat Tables, a welcome extract from the Referee's Guide. Now this is an excerpt from, essentially not the Referee's Guide, this is 1979, so we're talking about the Dungeons & Masters Guide for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st edition. And this is by Gygax himself. And really what that kind of highlights at that time is, even though TSR had their own magazine, Dragon, long-running magazine, much longer-running magazine than White Dwarf in terms of being for the hobby, the role-playing and gaming hobby, rather the miniatures wargaming hobby. The importance of reaching a British audience for TSR cannot be underestimated if Gygax is writing articles for Dungeons and Dragons, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and having them published in White Dwarf. And then we've got selection of monsters from the Fiend Factory. And Fiend Factory was the regular department for White Dwarf, and a regular feature introducing new and interesting monsters, edited by Don Turnbull. Don Turnbull is an important figure in the gaming and role-playing hobby. He was very much involved in the play-by-mail scene during the 60s and 70s, and then of course in the early 80s he would head TSR UK and would write some key, or basically write the very first UK-based scenarios for Dungeons and Dragons with Dave Brown, which is the U series, and they're really good models. But here we've got sort of a collection of monsters, that would appear in the pages of White Dwarf. Interesting, monsters are always kind of the easiest thing to create for Dungeons and Dragons. Monsters, spells, treasures, that sort of thing. Because they're very mechanical, you add some flavour, and you make them interesting. And of course, the Fiend Folio would be drawn heavily from the pages of White Dwarf and the Fiend Factory. So, then we have Expanding Universe for Traveller, which is by Andy Slack, which is new rules for Traveller, so skills and their use, poisons and chemical warfare, and so on. Open Box is the department posting reviews. So we've got reviews here of B1's In Search for the Unknown, and then S1 special module Tomb of Horrors, and you look at these and go, oh my god, were they really £2.50 back in the day? Yes, they were. And then Brian Asprey gives us the Huri character class. This is really quite fascinating, because essentially this is a magic using seductress, and even the level names are all work on the sort of like the theme of the seductress. The novice, flirt, charmer, allurer, temptress, enchantress, vixen, courtesan, seductress. And her spells are all about charms, and so on. So charm person, of course, jet charm, fascination, silver tongue, impotence, kiss of healing, kiss of sleeping, and so on. So so very close and kind of personal in kind of magic, with even the modifiers. There's even rules for seduction here upon her part, with modifiers if the victim is a fighter or a paladin or a ranger. And it's even down to modifiers. A monk or paladin stroke ranger get +7, monk +8, a half elf just +1. Half orcs or orcs -1, and you're kind of going, really? Modifiers by races, it looks really kind of weird. Another thing, Huris can't be lawful. I mean, there's definitely not a time and a place really for this kind of character class. I think it's an interesting character class. I think, you know, in the hands of the right players, in the hands of the right group, you know, if it's handled, you know, carefully, it might be okay. But but I doubt it. So, Valley of the Four Winds is the continuing fiction section. Really, that was kind of supporting the board game Valley of the Four Winds board game, and that continued onwards. But White Dwarf itself was not really a vehicle for fiction over its first over its history. Dragon Magazine did more with the fiction, so did Imagine from TSR. So then we've got the new spells, things like Laser and Mirage, and here we've got sort of like early contributions by Phil Masters. The letters page, which of course would be, you know, giving views and so on upon previous content. So there's even piece here from Don Turnbull talking about them combat matrices and the monster mark system, which would have appeared in previous issues and would appear in Best of White Dwarf articles. Quick section of news. So news. So this is the news for that month. Not very much. Wasn't very much going back on the hobby in 1979. And then we have things like more adverts. So Forever People in Bristol, notable comic book and gaming shop. Up until the time, I suppose, have probably been taken over by Forbidden Planet. Wouldn't be surprised. Advert for Tor Ceti, a Swedish board game, science fiction war game. More miniatures. We've got Leicester's Game Shops, Fantasy Shop by Design, Royal Path of the Miniatures. We have a section on help, the classified section, which, you know, was a way to gain players in your local area and so on. And then Chaosm's advert is actually looks really uninteresting, but we've actually got sort of like announced for the summer Cults of Prax, Foe, Snakepipe Hollow, amongst other things, you know, forthcoming games that would have been really, I mean, certainly Snakepipe, those Cults of Prax are really important. Fantasia Myth figures based in Erith, in Kent, Minifig Scry Chest, London. So more adverts for miniatures. It's just fascinating just how miniatures focused the adverts are in this issue of White Dwarf. Games of Liverpool, who were a big importer back in the day, and there's pretty much sort of like, you know, if you live in Liverpool, there was pretty much a lot of a certain sense of the shop itself has its own myth, which you know, you talk about, people have talked about, and also, you know, you can hear about that on this episode of the Grognard Files. And then similarly, distributor and seller Dungeons and Starships in Birmingham, and then Games Workshop advert itself. Got a bit of a tear there, and on the back we have an advert from TSR Hobbies for Gamma World, and let's say that for those photographs are very 70s. It is 1979, of course. Not entirely sure they would do that now, and they would probably go for the artwork and the weirdness rather than, you know, the sex appeal of Gamma World. And you're kind of going, sex appeal of Gamma World? Gamma World has no sex appeal. Your mileage may vary, and I like Gamma World a lot, but not sex appeal. Anyway, that is White Dwarf issue number 13 from June, July 1979. Back when I would have been 12, and I would have been just about to get into gaming in the next year. Literally, in this, I would be I mean, so yeah, literally July 1979, I would have been 12. I would have just about turned 12, and then everything sort of like turned on its head in my life, because my father left, which would lead to a divorce, and we living with my mother, and I would learn about Dungeons and Dragons from, let me see, friends of my mother. you know, who would tolerate me and tell me about great adventures they were having in a giant castle with dungeons under Lake Geneva, which sounded fantastic to my 12-year-old mind. And it wouldn't be until I saw issues of Starburst and the adverts for the game that they were being played, which is Dungeons and Dragons, and that's how it got me into it. But yeah, this just prefigures my time in the hobby. Anyway, thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. If you've enjoyed this, do please click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here, well, with a package containing a book or game, or in this case, a bundle of magazines, then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. Be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.